So I think there's two sides to the same coin here. And the one side is that, okay, people are happy that he's showing some aggression because there's been criticism of that in the past and playing with passion. And then on the other side, there's, I think, was it Chip Kelly, or if not many others who have said, play with emotion. Don't let emotion play with you. And that has been a concern for the Eagles in the past, specifically with him when he did get into a fight with Derek Barnett years ago. And then was kind of very emotional about it and seemed like not in control of his emotions.
Appreciate your being aboard here on Birds 365 on the day after the day of an Eagle win. Yeah, it's already a couple of days late, but we're getting our first shot to give you our take on the Eagles game against the Jets' first preseason contest of the year. And to give us a helping hand is one of the best in town. If you're not reading Bleeding Green Nation, how big an Eagle fan are you really? The editor thereof, our buddy Lee Gowton, jumps aboard with us here on Birds 365. BLG, I'm sorry I missed you at practice the other day. Did I miss you? Were you not there? McMullen was giving me a hard time. He said, you're like a friggin' mayor. Because I had to go around and shake everybody's hand to thank you guys for coming on our show. He sees you all the time. I don't. Where were you the other day?
I'm easy to miss, Jody. I'm only 6'9".
If I had seen you, I know I would have got up to you, big guy.
Oh, man.
Bigger surprise, BLG. First cuts, William Dunkel or Alaipe?
I got to say, throughout training camp, I feel like Billy D, as we called him on BGN radio, it's been a tough go for him. I feel like he might be the worst player. I feel bad. I'm not trying to pick on the guy. Just he looks overmatched out there. So that was less surprising for me.
Billy Dunkel. JJ Arcega-Whiteside. The rumors are swirling. Tried to get it from Chase Callahan. He wasn't giving it up, but didn't show up at practice yesterday. Already the signs were there. As I mentioned before you came on, when they're changing your position in the fourth year of your contract as a second-round pick, that's not a good sign. I did think because of his value on special teams, they might keep him around for a while just in case. Doesn't look like it's the case. What do you think? JJ Arcega-Whiteside era. Give us your BLG take on that.
My guess is that if they do end up cutting him before the deadline on Tuesday, they're kind of going to spin it as like hey, we're giving him some time, a chance to catch on with another team where he's just in a numbers crunch here. And certainly the Eagles listed him as they're like 6th tight end on the depth chart they issued.
And he was working in the developmental periods, which was kind of an insult. But by the way,
and also
you think somebody claims him on waivers, BLG? Do you think somebody goes down that route?
I don't. No, I'm going to guess no. Because even with, I forget his contract situation off the top of my head. He's going to be in his 4th year, right? So isn't there the bonus
last year of his rookie deal?
Yeah, I just feel like you wouldn't even want to pay that much for that kind of player. I think you'd. But yeah, he only played 8 snaps in the preseason game too, and they're all late in the 4th quarter. Yeah. He did play 15 special team snaps. So to your point, he was active there, but still very clearly just not fitting in. I give him credit for last season for kind of like rebranding his game and being a special teams guy and blocking receiver. But, at some point that kind of usefulness runs out. The Eagles kind of have a souped up version of JJ Arcega-Whiteside and Zach Pascal can actually catch the ball a bit.
All right, BLG, the Eagles were down a couple of backs in the game on Friday night. No Boston Scott, no Kenny Gainwell. So it kind of fell on Jason Huntley to be the water bearer for this team, and he got a lot of carries in. Kennedy Brooks got a couple as well. Johnny Mack suggesting that the Eagles are going to get a 4th running back. It's going to be from another team off the waiver wire. In agreement? Do you think Kennedy Brooks is going to be the guy who makes this team, or are both of those guys roster fodder at best, and will someone better show up on the waiver wire?
Yeah, I think they're going to keep looking at that position, whether it's waiver wire or a trade that doesn't cost a ton, but if there's the right value out there, they could use some more depth there for sure. I thought Jason Huntley did some good things, but more so as a returner, really, with his longest one going 43 yards, almost broke it all the way. I do think he is their best kick returner. I don't know if he's good enough offensively to really trust on the roster. So that's an issue. And then Kennedy Brooks, I think he's more of a practice squad at best kind of guy. I don't think he's done anything too special. So yeah, they could easily be looking for another guy there.
A couple other positions where I think that might be the case as well, Brandon, are tight end and safety. But I have to tell you, Noah Togiai has played so well that I've learned to pronounce his name, which I did not do for how long, between he was here, then he went to Indy, then he came back. Just not noticeable. All of a sudden, Grant Calcaterra goes down, still down with that hamstring, and he's playing well. I think he might have a chance to make this football team. What do you think of Noah? Let me say it again, Togiai.
Yeah, I think he's on the bubble. He's making a lot of catches, been reliable for the backup quarterbacks, and tight end is one of those positions, I think, on the Eagles roster where you don't really feel great about the depth as you do as other positions. I mean, obviously Goddard's great, but what do you really have behind him? And I think Stoll's going to make the team. They seem to like him. Good run blocker in addition to, I think he's a capable receiver. I don't think he's a liability in that regard. But yeah, then the third spot's interesting because you have Tyree Jackson still on the PUP list, and I'm going to guess he's going to begin the season on that and miss at least 4 weeks, if not more. So maybe you keep Togiai in the meantime, and then, after those 4 weeks or whatever it is, maybe you kind of switch him out and try to get him back on the practice squad or something. But at the same time, I don't know if they would really want to cut Calcaterra because he looked promising before he did get hurt.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of a tough decision.
I was going to say, if Calcaterra is not on the roster and he gets cut, do you think there's a team out there as a draft pick, later round draft pick, but a draft pick just the same? Do you think they run the fear of losing him?
I think in general, generally speaking, people worry too much about people getting claimed because you look at the numbers and it doesn't really add up that way, and teams don't really love doing that. But obviously, there are going to be the cases where someone does end up getting claimed. I mean, Noah Togiai, who we were just talking about, he got picked up by the Colts a few years ago. So, I do think it's possible. I don't know if that's likely, but I do think there's a chance.
Yeah. Safety will go there as well. That has been an interesting position to me because the Eagles, when Jaquiski Tartt, who's finally back, was out for personal reasons. When he was gone, and even before he left, they started cross-training Josiah Scott. Now you see some cross-training with Andre Sasseray as well, from safety to slot corner. Does that tell you the Eagles are trying to find a spot for those two players, or they're just throwing darts at the board, BLG?
I think there's some kind of level of appreciation or investment, whatever you want to call it, in those players. I think, Scott was ahead of Tartt, I believe, running the second team before Tartt left. So that seems like a good sign to me. And the fact that he got a first team rep in Sunday's practice, or at least one, if not multiple.
Reed Blankenship got a couple first team reps.
That's interesting.
So,
yeah.
Undrafted rookie. So clearly, and that's why I say, all right, are they just rotating guys? Because this was ahead of Kayvon Wallace. What does it say about Kayvon? What does it say about Jaquiski? Or is it real? Is it real that they're going to go in a different direction? Maybe try to get more athleticism at safety, because that's sort of what they need.
Yeah, I don't think Kayvon Wallace has really done enough to make the team. I mean, I feel like I would argue that Sasseray in one training camp / preseason, I think he did have a pass breakup or something too, or at least a really good tackle in the first preseason game. I think he's done more this summer than Kayvon Wallace really kind of ever has flashed in his entire career here. So I think he deserves to make the team. And in addition to being versatile, like you mentioned, being able to play at backup corner, nickel corner, which he was last year. And then obviously kind of more so moving to safety this offseason, and then really flashing on special teams as a gunner. I think he just gives you more value. So I think that wouldn't be the right decision if they don't keep him around.
Same question, I guess, like Calcaterra. Kayvon Wallace, if you don't keep him on the 53, would he be a practice squad candidate for this team, or do you just throw up your hands and go, all right, that was a swing and a miss. Sorry. If some other teams wants to make a play for him for their practice squad, did the Eagles even put up any kind of defense against that?
Yeah, I think that's always an interesting kind of position. I think there's some players who might get a little miffed, at the idea of getting cut and being like, forget this. They cut me. I want to go to another team's practice squad if I can and feel like I can get a fresh start as opposed to this team that clearly doesn't value me that much. Of course, the flip side is, okay, this team did draft me. I know the system. Maybe there's an injury or two, and then I get my chance, and I can kind of bide my time here. So I think it depends on what the player, how they're really feeling, and what they think. But I do think there'd be, I think the team would have at least some interest in keeping him around on the practice squad, if not just on the roster outright.
All right, we buried the lead, BLG. We have a perfect quarterback in Philadelphia, 158.3, baby. If you project that over a full game, it stays perfect. What do you take from Jalen Hurts' performance in obviously a vanilla environment?
Yeah, I think it's a stock up kind of showing, and that's a very, admittedly small sample size. I think he did a lot of good things in terms of he made a play on the run, on the throw to Quez Watkins, first play of the game. He played in structure as well, got the ball out relatively quick, threw over in the middle of the field, threw to the left side of the field, some of the things that he hasn't necessarily been great at. So not too many complaints. I did think he broke the pocket a bit early on the play.
Nick's going to yell at you. He was perfect. What do you want?
I know I know he talked about that. Okay, yeah. But even so, I do think
he broke it too early. You're right.
He broke it too early. And then even AJ Brown said after the game, which Sirianni also didn't seem to like, that AJ Brown said to Hurts apparently on the sideline afterwards, like, hey, slide there. Don't take the hit going out of bounds. And Sirianni defended him, saying the sidelines should protect him. But still, right. I know it is the preseason. Yeah. You could have just went down. And also, it wasn't like he was fighting for the marker. He ran out of bounds for no gain. So it would have been 4th and 5 if he didn't get that penalty. And who knows if the Eagles convert that or whatever, and how we're all talking about the outlook of this being different. Who knows? But for what he actually did, 6-6, I thought it was good.
Well, if you believe what some people believe, that Quincy Williams was out to actually injure Jalen Hurts, he could have slid and Quincy still could have got after him. A little bit of an overstatement there. It's a penalty, got the penalty he was supposed to get. Everybody got up and they were fine. So we can move on from that. I got to move on to give my partner credit here, because he was right about Cam Jurgens. I suggested last Friday he may get the same treatment as all the other ones. Get in, play a series, get the hell out, put him in bubble wrap, because we don't know if Jason Kelce's going to be back for the opener or shortly thereafter. No, they let Jurgens go to work after all of his mates along the offensive line were well out of the game. He was still in there doing the job, and he looked pretty damn good for a first-ever NFL-type game. Well, again, got to give Howie Roseman credit. He has filled a need. It's backup center. It's not a priority, but backups can become starters in the blink of an eye, as we're seeing with the possibility with the Kelce injury. Sam, I think Jurgens continues to get reps throughout the preseason just because he's a rookie, or at what point does the coach go, all right, no, I gotta put this guy aside just in case?
Well, I think they might dial it back a little bit if he's, he just continues to look good, and it's like, okay, what's more to see here? We kind of know what the deal is, and Kelce's outlook maybe isn't looking necessarily like totally guaranteed week one. Maybe he kind of pulled back on him a little bit, but yeah, he did look good. I mean, honestly, I don't think he wanted to come out of the game. He looked like he was having fun out there, the way he was just hitting people and getting out in space. So I think really encouraging performance from Cam Jurgens. It's just, to me, it's just like it's a little frustrating from the standpoint of like how many teams have like two players who you feel like could be quality starting centers, especially as injuries are going around the league. And I'm not trying to be, suggest the sacrilegious here and say they should trade like Jason Kelce or just trade a guy they drafted in the second round. But it's just kind of funny. Like when you look historically at centers who are drafted on like day 1, day 2, they don't just sit for a year. So it's kind of a weird situation.
Yeah, but the same thing happened last year with Landon Dickerson. Everybody called him a luxury pick, and all of a sudden he's needed. Who knows with Cam Jurgens? And that's the old saying, today's luxury is tomorrow's necessity. And if Jason Kelce, from all indications, Lane Johnson let the cat out of the bag. Like he's told his friends, this is it. So, they need a center moving forward. That might turn out to be a seamless transition. I'm not going to say Cam Jurgens is Jason Kelce, but
right.
He's got a lot of upside. So maybe it's a little bit of a smarter pick than we all realized when the Eagles made it. I want to talk about the smartest pick of all, and that was Jordan Davis. We got a little taste of Jordan Davis and just his presence and what it does for everybody else. And it starts with Nakobe Dean. Nakobe was probably upset. Not probably. He was upset. He thought he was going to be a first-round pick, ends up falling to the third round. Might have been the best thing that ever happened to him because he ends up in the same place as Jordan Davis again. This guy keeps blockers off linebackers. It is unbelievable. I don't know if people are going to realize how important that is, but it is important. And this team, I think they're going to be ecstatic with Jordan Davis. Am I too hyped up, Brandon?
I don't think you're too hyped up. I mean, he was the guy I thought the Eagles should draft if Jameson Williams especially wasn't available on the board, and he wasn't. And, you know, some people questioned the trade up at the time, but I mean, I think they got an extremely, incredibly elite level athleticism. And that's just not one of these players who, you know, they test well, but you don't really show it or see it show up on the tape. No, I mean, you see Jordan Davis being very active in his movement out there. Obviously, the play where he didn't finish the tackle on the Jets running back, but he really disrupted it. And then Nakobe Dean, who you mentioned, came in and cleaned that up. That was a big highlight that was going around. And I think we're going to see more of that. He's going to be disruptive there. You know, is he going to be a double-digit sack guy? Probably not. But I don't think that's really going to come close to reflecting his value that he has as a disruptive player in the middle there, someone who can just constantly get in the backfield and kind of blow up what the other team is trying to do.
Another guy who I thought looked good on defense, and I was a little surprised by it because he's been marginal since he got here, later round draft pick. But Tyrone Jackson, he is another one of the Eagle players who's one injury away from being a key contributor, or at least being asked to be a key contributor. He flashed a little bit for me the other night. Seemed to be getting to the ball quickly and making plays. What do you think his status on the team is right now?
I think he's had a really good training camp. I mean, he's been getting to the quarterback quite a bit. You know, I almost want to see him get some reps against like starting offensive line time to time, just to see, you know, how he's going to fare against them. But against the backups, he's been doing really good. He's down the depth chart a little bit, but think about how the Eagles rotated their pass rushers last year, and Ryan Kerrigan didn't play this huge role, and obviously was not very productive at all until the playoff game. But like, so if you're having that same kind of or similar kind of setup where you're going to have this fourth defensive end who's going to play a ton, but it's going to play a little bit, it'd be nice to have that guy actually do some things. And I think Tyrone Jackson can be a significant upgrade on what Ryan Kerrigan gave the Eagles last year, which was not much of all, or very much at all. So I do
think Ryan retired as a commander / Washington football team / name we do not speak of instead of Eagle. No, he was not very effective here. You're right. Tyrone Jackson has had a good camp. I wanted to get Michael Buffer for this question, but I couldn't. Man. So from the Fighting City of Philadelphia, Andre Dillard, scrapping at training camp, 3 different scraps. We've gone through 10 practices, BLG, and some of them in 100-degree heat. Where everybody should be pissed off. No fights. All of a sudden, Andre Dillard wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. By the way, he's scrapping. He beats Derek Barnett in a rep. He's scrapping. He beats Patrick Johnson in a rep. He's scrapping. What do you think? Is he fighting his way out of town? What is Andre doing?
So I think there's 2 sides to the same coin here. And the one side is that, okay, people are happy that he's showing some aggression. Because there's been criticism of that in the past and playing with passion. And then on the other side, there's, you know, I think, was it Chip Kelly, or if not many others, who have said, you know, play with emotion. Don't let emotion play with you. And that has been a concern for the Eagles in the past, specifically with him when he did get into a fight with Derek Barnett years ago, and then was kind of very emotional about it and seemed like not in control of his emotions. So, you know, that's the bad side of it. The good side, I think, and, you know, you can't just be scrapping it up. Like, you have to be playing physically and, you know, playing in a way that manifests this, you know, channels this kind of aggression that we haven't always seen from Dillard, who, to be clear, I think has had a good summer, good training camp. But yeah, I do think you can kind of look at both sides of it there. I will give him the benefit of the doubt since he's had a good camp and say, okay, it's nice that he's showing some fire. But at the same time, you don't want to be like offensive version of Derek Barnett, who you're fighting with, and make a big dumb penalty in the game, especially coming in off the bench. God forbid if Mailata goes down or whatever, and all of a sudden you're coming in and other teams kind of get like the book on you, and that you can kind of be rattled and maybe baited into swinging at someone, and all of a sudden you're losing your backup left tackle, or you're getting a really dumb penalty. So that's the part I would be worried about.
BLG, if Dillard is still here when the roster gets cut down to 53, will it be more so because the Eagles think, yeah, we got to keep our best left tackle? It's the most important offensive line position. Mailata is great, but he's like every other player, one twisted knee away from going down. That no, we want to prioritize someone who can get the job done at left tackle. We're keeping him. Or is he going to be here because he was a former first-round pick and the rest of the league is only offering a conditional fifth that can become a fourth or something like that? If he's still here, will it be more because the Eagles value the backup presence of Andre Dillard, or the Eagles overestimate what his value will be on the open market?
Yeah, I think, well, they do that second thing. So I'm not going to say that's not effective. But the first thing I think is the main reason. I think they value how he's grown. I think they value having offensive line depth clearly. And I don't think they're in any rush to trade him or some of the other players who kind of, like, let's say, Gardner Minshew, just for example, unless they get an offer that they really like. They're not just going to rush to sell these guys. They have to get an offer that's like, hey, this is a no-brainer. Let's just take this. We'll take that whatever pick it is and not think twice about it. I think that it has to be that kind of situation for those that like Dillard or any of those other guys to get dealt.
I want to talk about the deference players. I like to call them BLG. We know the offense, the first team offense, the guys that were available, they played the 8 snaps and that was it. Defensively, Kaiser White makes the big play, sets them up for the 14-0 win. You saw the guys who played 5 snaps, 3 snaps. TJ Edwards has made that leap. I think deservedly so. Marcus Epps has made that leap. I think deservedly so. One guy we talked about, what the heck is Derek Barnett doing on that list?
I don't know. Let me ask you what you make of that.
How many plays did Derek Barnett play the other night?
I think it was 3 or 4.
Yeah,
somewhere in that range.
I'm looking back. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think he's a good, solid, rotational player, although that usually happens when somebody is a first-round pick in a city and they don't live up to expectations. They typically go to another city and they might become a solid rotational player. To happen in the same city is bizarre, but the Eagles seem to think way more of Derek Barnett than the rest of the world. Now, I'm not as hard on him as Jody. Jody's really hard on him. I think he's fine as a rotational player, but I see stuff like that and I go, whoa, he should be out there. He should be, even if it's trying to corral his emotions, as we're saying before, as a guy who makes consistent mistakes. What do you make of the Eagles sort of handling of Derek Barnett?
Yeah, I'm looking back at the snap counts here, and he played 2, and that's the same amount as Brandon Graham played, for context.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And oh, by the way, I think Brandon Graham was involved in his play.
Yeah, tackle for loss right away.
He was only out there for 2, and he actually made a play. Derek Barnett was out there for 2. We never saw him. I need that verified. I need to check the tape to make sure he was actually out there for 2 plays.
I was waiting for him to pop up on the injury report, but no, he seems to be healthy. They seem to be paying deference to Derek Barnett. It's bizarre to me.
Except for Andre Dillard. He's not paying any deference.
Well, no, not Andre. Andre's fired up.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange because, and it is to your point about, like, this idea of a change of scenery player. I mean, he's not. He's like how he tried to kind of sell that. He's not. There's no change of scenery. He's back here in the same role, nevertheless. Not even like a different role. Like, you're okay, kind of like we talked about with JJ earlier. It wasn't a change of scenery going into 2021, but it was a different kind of role that he would be playing, Barnett's playing the same role too. So yeah, I don't know fully what to make of that. I think Barnett's quietly had like a decent summer. I think he's got some pressure. I don't think he's been invisible out there, but I think he's kind of just is what he is, and he's just a guy. I think that's a term for a player. What you kind of can what to expect from. They're not great. They're not terrible. They're just a guy. I think Derek Barnett is just a guy.
All right, I want to ask you about the backup wide receiver position, BLG. We know it's going to be Brown and Devontae. Good to see him back at practice yesterday. Look good, as a matter of fact, at practice. Quez made a couple of nice catches in the preseason game. Pascal and Rager. Both guys, we know Pascal's going to be here. The question is, how much are you going to play? He looked darn good for a guy who had been in the hospital for 4 days with food poisoning. Rager made a couple of plays, didn't look terrible. Would love to see him break one on the return game, which I think could have added to his value. Do you think his value went up, down, stayed flat? If there is someone that comes a knocking to make a deal, would the Eagles deal him? And what do you think that cost is going to be? Did he help hurt, or did his value stay flat with his performance in the game on Friday?
Yeah, I think it probably stayed about what it is from the game. I think it's possible that Howie Roseman is really working the text threads or the phones or whatever, and is trying to, pump him up a little bit, being like, hey, look at these people, these Eagles beat reporters saying that Jalen Rager is kind of having the best camp of his career, which I think he is. That's also a very low bar.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be much of a market for him. I do think the Eagles would like to trade him, would like to get a decent value for him, not even, like ripping someone off, but just anything that they can kind of take and be like, all right, we can move on here. But I don't think that's going to be available to them. And to your point about Pascal, I mean, yeah, I do. He's pretty good. I think for what he is.
He looked good since he had a great practice last week.
Yes. He was carving up one-on-ones on Sunday. Yeah. And again, the guy lost 16 pounds recently. Like he looks pretty good given the circumstances. So I think not only is he going to be, he's going to be, and people think of him as like wide receiver number 4, like rotate in, get like, a look here and there. He's going to be a little bit more involved than that. Not to say he's going to like outright start, but he's going to be part of like the game plan, especially in the red zone. I think is an area where he's going to be a factor in, and then some of those short yarded situations. So yeah.
At Brandon Gowton, follow BLG on Twitter. Read him at bleedinggreennation.com. I'm going to leave you with this one, BLG. We know GMs, man. Undrafted rookie's going to make this team. I think it's an ego thing. I think Britton Kobe was in the lead. Now he's injured, although he's a bad doctor. He thought he tore ligaments after the game. Turns out it's just a sprain. So that's positive. But I got to tell you, I'm in the Josh Jobe camp now. All of a sudden, Josh Jobe is showing up. He's showing up at practice. He's getting second team reps. If I'm going to pick an undrafted free agent to make this team, he is the leader in the clubhouse for me. Same for you, or you got somebody else in mind?
I do think he did a bunch of good things in practice to deserve to be in that spot, to be with the second team cornerback group there, across from Zach McPherson. I do think he struggled a little bit in the game. I think the Jets were kind of like picking on him at times, seemed to give up a bunch of completions, nothing over the top, but a lot of things more so underneath. Not enough to demote him off of there, but I want to continue to watch them throughout the preseason. The other two guys I would say are Covey, as you mentioned, and then Reed Blankenship, who I think has he's just always been in like the right spot. And hasn't done anything incredibly flashy or like super impressive, but he's just quietly always in the right spot. Seems to be able to make tackles, like tackle with fundamentals. He led the Eagles in tackles the other night with 8 against the Jets. So. And also probably a guy who might be able to help out on special teams too. So and the Eagles are just so thin at safety. We were talking about it earlier. It's not like they have a bunch of established talents there. So he's another one I think is a strong contender.
Yeah, I'm a Blankenship guy, and you're right in that it'll probably be more decided about who can actually make a tackle on special teams than anything else. All right, one of the things we would love to have evaluated in the first preseason game, but to be fair, it's really not fair to even go there, are the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator. you didn't see anything that you either got really excited about or really questionable on, as far as either Shane Steichen and his play calling and or the new vision of the defensive coordinator with all these new weapons he got. Oh, except they were on the bench as quickly as possible. You don't take anything out of either Gannon or Steichen's performance in game one, do you?
Well, I mean, they did pass a lot, which is, something that I think.
That's true.
Yeah. Which is they're going to have to do that more this year, at least relative to what they did last year. So there's that. Yeah. And they did it well. So, it's a nice little early sign. And then defensively, the big question mark, as we know, with Jonathan Gannon is can his units kind of, produce better against the actually good quarterbacks. And I would not put Zach Wilson.
I was surprised, Brandon, how many 40 fronts there were early. I thought we'd see, but maybe he's waiting to break that out.
Sure.
With Jordan Davis in the regular season opener. So I was a little bit surprised by that. But yeah, it was pass. Although Jalen Hurts ran it in for a touchdown, it just got called back.
Yeah, but was that a pass play too, or
he dropped back? It was it was a scramble.
That would count as a pass play for me.
And Jordan Mailata was holding on that play. So
that looked clear.
Yeah.
BLG, you bring the goods every time that you come. His website is a must for all Eagle fans, Bleeding Green Nation. Always a pleasure, my friend. I'm sorry I missed you at camp. Yeah, I would have been able to pick you out of the crowd. But I was looking for you. We'll catch up soon enough, and we'll get you back here on Birds 365.
Take care, guys.
Thanks.